Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. We welcome you at the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. The Ukrainian Reforms Communication Taskforce during this week of the very decisive plenary session, which is according to the schedule the last one for this period of time, but they're going to continue their work anyway. They face a very intensive schedule in addition to the issue of making amendments to the Constitution and something which is related to the reform financial sector. They're going to consider a lot of other issues. And yesterday they took care of many issues in the different committees, and many of the items discussed yesterday in the committees were the moratorium of inspecting the business, which operate in Ukraine till the July the 1st of 2015. There were different opinions voiced yesterday whether it was useful or not, and this draft law was considered at the committee, and we invited the representatives of the Ministry of Development just to see what would be the logics behind the previous moratorium, how important it is for the regulation of business and create a comfortable investment environment. So I'm very happy to welcome here Ms. Juliya Klymenko, Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, who will tell you more details about this initiative. You have the floor, ma'am. Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. I would like to share with you our developments. Why we do believe that the moratorium has to be extended, because this is the position of the government. This was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers and was submitted by the Minister of Economy. We believe that moratorium is a temporary measure, but a very strong one, and at this point of time, and because the entrepreneurship finds itself not in the best environment, and one of the most important tools is to decrease the pressure on the small and medium businesses. And one of the possible and one of the perhaps most efficient methods is to extend the term of the moratorium. And the moratorium proved to be very efficient when it was introduced in 2014-2015 period of time. What statistics we have? We have the following statistics, official statistics, to the tune that 83% of the scheduled inspections were decreased, and 33 of non-scheduled, and in the inspection of the physical natural persons and the entrepreneurs, it decreased by 8 times. As you can see, the moratorium does work, and this is testified by many letters we receive to the tune that we have to extend the term of the moratorium until we have the structure of the control supervision bodies in Ukraine, because today we have a big number of controlling bodies. Unfortunately, they do not coordinate their efforts between themselves, and they create a certain chaos, if I may put it this way, during the inspections and verifications. They appear any time, and none of the bodies actually coordinates or agrees upon the schedule of the inspection. Inspection can last as long as the deem it necessary. So one inspection leaves, another comes. This kind of incessant or never non-stop process. And we, speaking in principle, are in favor of extension of the term of moratorium in order to optimize the bodies in the system and have enough time to complete optimization of the controlling bodies in Ukraine and make clear, understandable, and simple rules for inspections. What I mean to say that those inspections must be comprehensive In other words, you shouldn't have any control body to come whenever they want and when they believe it necessary. The inspection maybe can choose 10 or 20 days a year for enterprise to coordinate their efforts between themselves, and then they take care of the inspection, comprehensive inspection of this or not company enterprise. Yeah, they're going to create the so-called checklists when the control body comes, and beforehand, before they come to the company or enterprise, they send in a set of documents or a list of documents we would like to inspect or verify, not unlike what we have, a kind of general list of all the documents, but specific documents of specific enterprise or company. In addition of those documents which are mentioned in this list, they cannot inspect or verify any other documents. Also, we would like to have one law specifying all the control bodies. You know that the fiscal system inspection bodies, they have their own law, so to say. And here we can visualize some kind of discrepancies or non-coordinated efforts. All the control bodies have to take care, or have to join the comprehensive inspection, and the actions should fall under the same law, which regulates the control procedures. Again, we are talking about the increasing number of the control bodies as well. In September last year, the government took certain steps towards optimization in accordance with the resolution 442. We just have to put the end physical elimination of some control bodies and decrease their number accordingly, and then we'll be able, in the newly organized, established control bodies to take care of the transformation changes which I mentioned a few minutes ago. Also, believe that the inspection should take place, let's put it this way, let's say the scheduling of the inspection must be done by one person, and the physical inspection must be taken care of by another person or body, unlike what we have today, when the same persons are responsible for scheduling and actually holding the inspections. And in this way, which was kind of another stimulus or simulation corruption. We also believe those companies who provide a very high quality external audit. We are talking about financial audit, quality audit, I don't know, well, maybe audit, standards which are going to be introduced. If this or not company enterprise introduce some kind of quality or quantity standards, or there's some kind of inspections are held by the well-known companies, let's say the certified companies. In this case, the public bodies should consider this as they already completed inspection. In other words, if you took care of the financial audit, this audit must be recognized by the state fiscal service as the audit which already has been completed and took place. In this way, we're going to stimulate our entrepreneurs to invest into their own development of their own business. On the other hand, we are going to stimulate the growth of the market of high quality services, and the foreign companies or domestic companies will try to come closer to the certain level. And we are talking about development of businesses and decrease the burden upon the state. If we have the external audit, the state should not take care of inspection. Maybe some of extreme situation where there is some threat to their citizens or to the environment. We, of course, in some extent, we are going to introduce the responsibility of the inspectors. This is not really the easiest thing to do, since the salaries of the public servants are very small, and to simulate the person who receives 1,800 hryvnia or 2,000 hryvnia, it's very difficult to simulate them. Or actually, we also would like to develop the comprehensive basis of inspections database, which will contain the information on the inspections. And this is going to be an open database. You can access it and see that the Alpha company was inspected this year 30 times. by specific bodies or agencies, for example, and who did that inspection. For example, Inspector Ivanenko, and then we'll see that some of the companies, enterprises are inspected on a regular basis, and some of them have a lot of inspections per year, and others just a few inspections per year. So there will be a legislative standard and norm according to which the inspection bodies have to put that information their respective website. Again, we are talking about this statistical static information. You cannot have a full picture and see everything, all the information on the different companies on one side. You have to collect the information from different sites. So this is going to be a step toward the publicity, so to say. I mean, when everything will be published and open. So those are what we already worked out, and there's some other changes which we're going to introduce in some of the legislative acts or laws, whatever. And this is really very good initiative to decrease the pressure on business. And indeed, when we're talking about the fact that the more enterprises or the economic entities are subject to verification or inspector, the less would be the number of those inspections. At the same time, you are talking about such spheres as consumers' protection rights, or etc., etc. This principle will be taken care of by the inspection. They will have the right to take care of this inspection in time. We are talking about the safety of food. On the quality of the state control, very much depends our capability to export those products to some foreign countries, including the EU member states. So how all this correlates with the moratorium? Is there any balance between your wish to decrease the pressure on business and ensure those elements which are much needed on point of view of control? So what will be the approach of the Minister of Economy? A very simple approach. We believe that this right, which is fixed by the Constitution, the right to safe light and nutrition for our citizens, we have to inspect that. I believe that in October the adopted law on the safety of food, which has been already harmonized with European legislation. It reads that the inspector has a right, based on the complaint of the consumer, to take care of the inspections. This is the way they do it in Europe, and nobody actually questions this right. If we're talking about the public inspectorates, which was taking care of this before we introduced moratorium, if we are talking about safety of foodstuffs, so the first one has not stopped its function, and the another has not started its function. So if we are talking about giving the right to the inspector who knows he's going to be fired from the state inspector because we're going to restructure it, and give the right to the inspector to take care of inspections, not a correct thing to do. Also, the level of the execute, now the doers, so to say, not everything is approved now. Actually, this law is quite normal. We have the balance between the guidelines of controlling bodies, etc. It's in the law itself. We have to describe very specifically when the inspector can come to a company or enterprise, what he can do, what not, etc., etc. Unfortunately, we had a very delayed or protracted process of nominating a new head of this agency, which ensures the food safety. As far as I know, he was nominated 2-3 weeks back, and they only start to work. This is a process which I believe will take more time, about 3 to 6 months, when they will start to work at, let's say, the maximum capacity. I believe that we'll be cooperating with the new department that will be able to provide all necessary procedures which will not be detrimental to business. We have some consumers who on a regular basis will lodge their complaints on different food products. This is not the correct thing to do, this kind of abuse. This is what we call unfair competition. Can we coax your attention on the issue? What would be the time schedule? We understand the moratorium is a kind of temporary measure, some transitional period is required in order to say goodbye to that, and is there any certainty that the inspectors will stick to observe new principles of their work? Again, we are talking about the time interval, and it's number one. Number two, what kind of measures are going to be planned to carry out within this period of time? What's your vision, whether every control body will be involved or not?
Given the control policy is bestowed with the Ministry of Economy, we will assist every supervisory authority to design their own internal rules of procedure, to see them coordinated with the general policy. We will make some changes in the legislation. Some changes will go to the Cabinet of Ministers resolutions, and we think that it will be finalized by late 2016. And the question for us is how to make sure that fiscal authorities refrain from inviting business persons to sharing their profits. I think this is a task for quite a number of years, and it's a matter of proper insurance to business activities. At least 2 years will be necessary for us to transfer from punitive function to servicing function. This is what other countries worldwide have done already, and this is about human factor. And again, if we pay them 2,000 hryvnias, that way we somehow affect the qualities of people who will apply. This concerns our position regarding audits, about the lack of need for repeated audits. And again, if we provide decent payment to persons, we will require something from them. In our case, though, it is not the situation. So it appears that the Ministry of Economy has a wholesome approach towards its cooperation with other supervisory boards. Maybe there are some questions from the audience. Thank you, Taras. You partially mentioned my question regarding terms, and you mentioned that the new service is about to start from the beginning of 2016. And we still haven't seen any specific changes in that for a year now, so we expect it very much. We see that the new management of the service is more inclined to look into the agrarian sector. If we check the phytosanitary and sanitary measures in internal rules of procedure, we'll see about 20 mentions of these matters in the document against just 2 mentions of consumer right protection. I'm afraid that the consumer right protection matters will remain on the sidelines. Nevertheless, this is a very important thing that will definitely unite people in Ukraine, whether in a negative or positive way. And finally, I'd like to know your opinion as to how realistic are the terms named by Mr. Aivaras from the Ministry of Economy, who promised to have it just in 5 months, in 1st of January 2016. Do you think it's realistic? Well, I think it is realistic. The problem is that not everything depends on that agency, because it will be a combination of 4 previous governmental authorities, and it remains to be seen how the personnel will be joined and distributed, and there is a need to have a comprehensive problem to make this agency work. The state's consumer inspection still works. The inspection that does not do inspections, they work, they receive salaries, and we as taxpayers are supporting financially the authority that does nothing to protect their rights. This is the situation common for many government authorities, by the way. I think this question should be addressed to the already new managers of this agency, adding here the question as to whether and in which extent they will transfer some of old functions into the new domain. This is also a question of the multitude of functions, up to control of licensing of tourism operators. In my view, it is a concoction of very much different functions indeed. You mentioned the agricultural business they seem to be keen about, but effectively they have a huge swath of functions, from tourism to agriculture to many other things included there. In many countries we'll see just food and non-food related functions that effectively specify the extent of control. Because of that, because of real discrepancy with the situation now with this agency, I think it will merit another set of improvements to provide better understanding of their functions, and they will definitely need to improve their own rules of procedures, and applicable legislation will need to be updated. I do hope indeed it will at least start operating on 1st of January next year, but definitely it will need some flesh added to these bones. But well, again, going to better protection of interests of business persons and citizens, I think that the input of activists is very important in terms of streamlining control possibilities. Two questions. Was I right to understand you that the innovations you mentioned, they will be enshrined in various and different legal regulations, whether laws or resolutions, etc., and that you expect everything up to integrated databases to start operating by the end of this year? And second question, do you have any aggregate information, maybe from business persons, as to what problems they come across most frequently? Do you have any statistics on that? Because there is information about it. How would you estimate business climate, whether it changed? Well, we suggest that our changes and amendments will be ready by the end of this year. The time will be needed for the Parliament and for other bodies to process. This is why I mentioned the end of 2016 as the most probably finish line. And as regards moratorium on body operation, I think it is not necessary to maintain it until the end of next coming year. Really, it is about changing these punitive functions. And as regards the integrated database, it will depend on financing, because we submit projects, and we understand that this should be funded from the national budget, but we also look for donors. So actually, it's all about funds. If we find proper money, we are ready to implement our integrated database concept and translate it into tangible IT product. The second question concerns moratorium. The moratorium ended on 1st of July, and we are now on 15th. I would even say 16th. And during the previous session of the committee, we were told that inspections have been relaunched and inspectors already sitting in companies, and these controlling authorities already know what they're looking for because they waited for this stardom hour for them for a year and a half. And I think that the sooner we prolong this moratorium, the better it will be for businesses, given that at the moment we may not provide for decent quality of these inspections. That is, the Minister of Economy will not insist on it. Well, it has been included in the agenda. I'm not sure if the Parliament will review it or not. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank again Juliya Klymenko for explaining the position of the government regarding the moratorium. We've heard that this is not about mechanically prolonging it, but being more about continuation of a set of measures as an element, reformatory approach, actually. Aimed at instilling European principles in the inspection and oversight framework. It is about changes of behavior of the supervisory authorities, and it is a time-intensive exercise that will also require certain measures to be taken to balance interests of the state, the people, and businesses. We do hope that it will be implemented in practical terms. Thank you. This has been our traditional briefing. Tomorrow, hear from us more about public procurement. Thank you.